So I just turned on the recording for this as well, so we'll include a link to that inside of the Google Doc. I appreciate the suggestion. Just so that everyone knows, this is my first time really running one of these, or sort of really soliciting information from both academia and educational folks, or academia and industry folks. So always looking for feedback and information. I'm going to go through some of these slides, describe some of the things that we're doing here at the university, ideally get feedback from you guys over the long run. Again, we don't need to get feedback right away, but as Garvey said, we'll create that document and then anyone can add notes to those things. I see a couple of you have your mics on, which is great because I have a slide here where we'll actually introduce ourselves, but or I could go through that list as well. But the purpose of the day is really to share the concept that we have. And I'm glad Joey G could join us here because a lot of this comes from his hard work, and then HU adapting that from Shenandoah University to Harrisburg University. Really, the idea is to solicit your advice and guidance. What should we be doing differently? What did I miss in this set of slides or this program design? And then the timeline for a discussion. I want your advice and your input, but we also have a hard deadline of I need to propose this to our curriculum committee in mid-October. So I honestly think that I would like to engage you guys for maybe 30 days and getting feedback and going back and forth. But other than that, after that, you'll see the fruits of your labor to help us get this thing started. So we have a couple of folks who are in the group. A couple of you are online now with the discussion. I was thinking people could introduce themselves if everyone feels comfortable with doing that. If not, we can move forward, but I just want to see what people feel.
I'm fine with that. We can introduce ourselves.
All right,
I'm
Joey.
fine with that too, yep.
Okay, so it sounds like folks do have mics. So Joey, why don't you go ahead, and since you're on the top of the list here.
Sure. I don't know why I'm on the top. I guess we're going in reverse order here. No, my name is Joey Gariziak. I'm the associate professor of esports and also sport management and the director of our esports competitive team and program here at Shenandoah University. And as Charles kind of alluded to, I've written our curriculum for our esports major, which is a bachelor's of science. And I wrote that this year. We'll begin in our first class of students is joining us in a couple of weeks here on campus. We have 9 incoming freshmen. We have about 3 transfer students, and so we want to keep that cohort kind of small to start. We also have some students that will be adding it for their major that are already at SU. But I wrote that curriculum last year, got it through the curriculum committee. So Charles, I know your pain and what you're going to go through in the next couple of months, and I'm here to help and do whatever I can to support you all.
Thank you. I don't think Christine is on the line yet, but I see Paul. It looks like Paul is here. Paul is here. If you want to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Chamberlain, Chief Creative Officer with Allied Esports International. Allied Esports is the parent company that is responsible for the HyperX Esports Arena inside the Luxor in Las Vegas, 30,000 square foot facility dedicated to esports and broadcast. And it has been an interesting 2 years since we set off and launched it, and still enjoy first mover advantage in a major destination. And one of the things that is most interesting about this project is how our relationships have flourished within the community of all the feeder markets into Las Vegas, and also UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And, it went from a big, high-profile entertainment Las Vegas kind of thing to, at its heart, it is a community-based, it is really all about community with the arena. And that is what we enjoy, and especially working with our both the colleges and the local schools.
Thank you, Paul. And just so everyone knows, I stalked Paul at an event there in Vegas, and he was gracious enough to join us on the call to talk about what they're doing there at Allied Esports. Joe?
Yeah, thanks, Charles. Hi, everyone. I'm Joe Germano. I'm currently the head coach of the Overwatch team at Harrisburg University. Previously, a former professional player for the Philadelphia Fusion, most recently. as Charles kind of alluded to, I mean, part of the reason behind all of this and us wanting to build a program at Harrisburg University is to really create a pipeline that feeds into the whole industry, not just, the video gaming and playing side, but everything else that's involved in, what we call esports. So that's really one of the biggest motivators behind all of this.
Thank you. Garvey?
Hi, I'm Garvey. I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships at Twitch. Founded the Twitch student program in 2015 with the goal of marrying the physical with the digital, education with esports, to create empowered, confident young professionals and not recent graduates. So it's my pleasure to work with Harrisburg and all you fine people.
Thanks. And Garvey's another person that I stalked probably for about a year when we first came up with this idea. So thanks for him attending. And then last but not least, Christian. Oh, Garvey, did you have something else to add?
I was just going to say Chad is an old friend of mine. So I think from day one that he was involved in the industry, I took a shine to him. History teacher was his name. So it was it's really great to be able to work with him and Harrisburg University.
Great. We appreciate it. Christian?
Hey everybody, I'm Christian Kunkel with Nerd Street Gamers. We are an esports infrastructure company. So generally what that means is events and venues. We have 1,000 events that will happen through our National Championship Series this year. We have 3 venues, one in Philly, one in Denver, one in Huntington Beach, California. We work really closely with a lot of universities, including Harrisburg. We helped produce the Hue Fest last year and the Hue Invitational upcoming this year. We're really excited about that. So we're constantly trying to lower the barriers to access to the esports world for a lot of amateur players, and this kind of an activity, is kind of a structure and curriculum is absolutely a critical part of that. I think the industry side, in addition to the player side, is something that we're excited to help continue to build out as we look to more universities to deploy more facilities and more locations to bring esports to the masses.
Thank you. We have a star-studded group here. So as a couple people alluded to, we're doing a lot of this at the university because we want to fulfill some of the jobs that currently people are taking, but they might not be trained for. We want to also help the industry build, and we want to provide sustainable jobs or jobs that our students can use to sustain family life. And that's what the university is all about. We serve an underrepresented population for the most part. We're growing and doing some great things. We would not be able to have the press and the eye focus on us without the Storm team, which they run their first year out. They were able to win the collegiate championship. And we owe a great deal of gratitude to them for putting the university in the spotlight in the esports space. For those of you who have not visited the university, just a couple facts on the screen there. 4-year STEM institution in the state capital of Pennsylvania. We have right now a single academic tower. A second building is underway. We have a couple other ancillary spaces in the city. We serve about 7,000 students this fall, the majority of those in our graduate space. We've got 9 undergraduate programs and 4 graduate programs, I believe, and a brand new PhD program. We're one of those institutions where about 95% of our students actually are on scholarship of some point, and well, actually 100% is, and then 95% of them have substantial scholarship awards. We are very diverse in population, as you can see listed there, 55% minority, almost 50% women. I think it's, this number says 52. I think it's close to the 49%. The last I count, these facts might be a little old. But we have some great missions in place for the programs that we have for really educating a student body. Our students stretch across the country. Right now, over the last couple of years, we've had at least a representative from every state in the nation. But our main pool is from Philadelphia, Baltimore, and the Harrisburg area, Baltimore, D.C., and the Harrisburg area. Lots of small classes and really great hands-on activities with our students. So I personally right now I run our undergraduate program in interactive media, which covers broadcast video, audio, video production, as well as mobile application design, serious game design and development, and now we're starting to do VR this coming fall, AR and VR. So for those of you who are not from academia, this is what a traditional undergraduate program looks like at Harrisburg. In order to graduate with a degree, a bachelor's degree, you need 120 credit hours. A credit hour is pretty much the number of hours you have in the class per week. So if I have a 3 credit hour course, that means I meet for 3 hours a week over a 14 or 15 week cycle for a single semester. There's in our case, they're broken down into these categories. We have foundation courses, gen ed courses, experiential courses, which I'll talk a little bit about, electives where the students can really customize their program or what they want to study, and then the core of their actual program. So while they're studying all of this to get a bachelor's, this is the focus that they're doing. And as I mentioned, here are the undergraduates. I didn't include the graduate programs in this piece, even though we are talking about a graduate program in esports production and management and a certificate program in some aspects of esports. It'll probably be analyst, coaching, and casting to some degree, but more of that later. For you guys, it's really no secret as to why we're doing this. There's huge growth in the industry right now, and I think for the next year and a half to 2 years, there's going to be a low number of there's going to be limited competition. Joey G's program will be the first, but we'll be right behind him, hoping to keep him in line with offering some good competitive relationships that we have. We have a really great relationship, so the two schools I envision will be doing a lot together.
It's okay.
And then we also, there are career opportunities. When I was talking with Paul and talking with other folks, you find the people who are working at the arenas or the people who are part of the live entertainment of esports are all individuals from other industries, and no one in esports really has been trained in esports. So we're hoping to change that. We want to see what we can do in the space and in the industry if we can actually start training and retraining individuals to move into this space. And again, I said this at the start of this, we really could not do this without the success of our collegiate team. Our university is extremely nimble. My previous institution, the idea of putting on a new undergraduate program was normally a 5-year venture. The first program that I did here was right around the 9-month mark. And this program will be right around that same distance of time. And really, that's more on me. It could have gone faster than that. We have partnerships with not just our collegiate team here, but also professional team. As Joe mentioned, he has ties back to the Fusion, who has been very helpful with the university and watch parties and doing things in conjunction with the two. But I also happen to sit on the leadership team for Susquehanna Esports, which is a local esports organization. They have 2 teams that both made it into the pro leagues for Rainbow Six and PUBG. So we'll have strong relationship for those, for our students to not just work in the collegiate space in esports, but also while they're students to be able to have internships and potentially jobs in esports profession itself. And outside of that, also working with folks like Christian and Nerd Street, where the students can get internships there. And then Nerd Street has been our infrastructure provider for everything we do in esports. So we'll be able to train the students that they could use right away and hopefully reduce their need for some of their staffing, but also increase our students and provide with them the ability to perform and actually grow in this particular space. The university itself has a strong STEM background, so management and technology fit inside of that, and we have the resources. I don't want to brag, but if you've seen our esports facilities, you know that the university is not shy about investing money on things that we believe in, and this is one of the things that we truly do believe in. So when we get down to talk about the program, although I mentioned way back over here what a program looks like, our particular focus is going to be in these 4 areas, and this is why we've collected the people that we have here. We want to look at training students to be management in esports organizations. We want to look at training students to be on the production teams of whatever ilk that looks like in whatever venue that might be, whether it happens to be in their dorm room on a Twitch channel or it happens to be an Allied Esports arena. We want to prepare the students for all the skills and the technology that they need in order to do that. That will also include, that's event production. And then we have the area of performance, meaning our casters, our analysts, and even the broadcast folks. I'm sorry, not the broadcast, the social media team as well. Actually, I identified coaching and analysts outside of this, but they are part of the performance area. But I separated them because those are areas that we also want to do certificates in. So we've been approached by so many individuals that say, "Hey, I've always wanted to do coaching in esports. I don't know much about it. Where do I learn how to do that?" Just recently, we found that there are hundreds of high schools that are opening and starting esports programs, which is great, and sort of after school. And now we're starting to get teachers contact us saying, "Hey, I've been identified as the esports coach. I don't know what that means or what that does." And so our K-12, our dual enrollment team right now is looking at sort of collecting a list, and then next summer actually offering esports coaching certificate programs to high school teachers, which if I do my math right, that's going to be phenomenal because we'll be the only ones focusing on that area, and being able to work in that space will be great. So far I've gone over a bunch of those things. Are there any questions that you guys might have before I go into the details about the program itself?
We will be receiving this deck, right?
Yes.
Okay,
the deck
great.
I think may have been in the link, but this is an updated version, so I'll make sure that this goes out also.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. So details of the program. So I actually just popped this in there. The R6 team is on the bottom there, and the PUBG team is on the top. PUBG team is doing really well. R6, unfortunately, they're in the lower end of their bracket right now, but that will change with some roster changes we've had. So here's another look at the program, the BS program structure, and the next couple slides really define what our curriculum and what our program looks like. So first off, of those 120 credits, we have 40 to 50 of them, depending on how you split it up, where students can invest their time in esports. The reason for the broad range there is we also have some free elective in space that students could take additional courses in esports to work on this. The program itself, on the right-hand side, these are our academic programs that already exist and where we will be pulling courses from. So unlike folks like Shenandoah, we don't have a sports management program at all. And I actually find that welcoming, because that means we can partner with other institutions, because we provide access to things that they don't have, and then they provide things that we don't have as well. So our students, I really envision our students being able to work together at some of these events with other institutions and provide different outlooks or different areas of focus and concentration that we can do. So our program will still borrow from our analytics. We'll see some computer science. We'll see interactive media, which is a program I currently lead. And then we'll see a number of courses being pulled in from our management and e-business program, all again to round out this bachelor's degree. The leftmost column here, and I should have chose a different gray color there, it stands out too much, but 8 of those courses are the actual courses that make the core of the program. And I'll walk through these just because I want to make sure people have an understanding of what we're looking at and how we're identifying this. Rebecca, if you're still online, could you send an email to Christine? She sent a message just a few seconds ago saying that she couldn't log in. They were having issues on their internet. So just let her know that we're recording this, and then I'll make sure she gets everything. Okay, so next up. So these courses. This first course, actually I'll go back and forth between these slides. The first one is this competitive gaming. So this is the the program structure as it's laid out over 4 years. And one thing to note is that in the very first semester, the students will be taking an esports course. And this one is sort of an introduction to esports. It's done in a seminar fashion, and it's only 1 credit hour, so that we can take a light approach to this, and we're not inundating the student in their first semester with a number of things. They're already getting inundated with some of these other heavy courses. But this is their introduction to esports, what it is, how it operates. Some of them are familiar with it maybe as consumers, but many of them have never really thought about a career or what it would look like beyond being a player and a spectator. In the second semester, they start off with their first management course, and this is really an introduction to what it is. And you'll notice they're taking that alongside of an e-business course on an introduction to management. And I've spoken with faculty members here. We're going to look at ways of aligning these two curriculums or syllabi so that there are conversations that take place across the two courses. All of these students will be in this class, but not all of these students will be in this class. So these students will be able to share some of that knowledge there. Second year, we're looking at contemporary issues, and this is a TBA course. One of the things we wanted to start thinking about are what are the issues or the topics of the day that are being discussed in esports. When we talk about diversity, when we talk about gender, when we talk about technology, when we talk about the rise of some of the games, we want to have a vehicle for having conversations about those, but also pulling from, and a number of these will actually pull from case studies as well, so we can look at various studies that have been done by some other institutions. Social media management, hopefully Garvey has been very generous to offer their Twitch 101. We will integrate that into this course, but also look at where else that might fit in the curriculum. And then that second year is the first time that the students will also be able to take an elective inside of the program. For our institution, primarily, thanks, Rebecca. For our institution, most cases, the students don't start doing this until their third semester. But what I would like to do is have them started here, because then that really prepares them or makes sure they're better prepared for an internship later on down the road. Third semester, they'll take their first live event management course, and all students will take this, followed by another, or alongside of another program elective. And then we start getting into some of the upper ends of the management and organizational modeling. So we'll sort of look at how businesses are models and then what are the trends that are taking place. They take that along with a program elective, but they also take that along with an analytics course. So they can start collecting details and information and then start figuring out, well, how do I analyze that information? How do I visualize that information? How do I share that information with others? And then last, their fourth year, they are taking fan engagement course, and this is one that I'm excited about, because what I want the students to really start thinking about is the fan. What is the life cycle of a fan? How do we think of them from just coming across this to being the most hardened fan that they might have? We want to look at what's happening in traditional or dirt sports to figure out what they're doing with fan engagement, so we will use a lot of case studies to look at those things. We will also look at technologies to start seeing, well, how could AR be utilized in a game? Or how do we actually share the stats and information about the game while someone is watching it in a manner that is acceptable to the novice viewer, but also isn't extra clutter that the advanced viewer of that particular sport or spectator would have to worry about? Another program elective along that time. And then we have a questionable course. Right now, I have a course on the books called Esports Leadership. And I've got a little bit of pushback on this course. I'm holding my ground for now, but this might become an or course. This might be another course that we would offer this or a different course. And primarily the reason being is some of the folks here internally are thinking that a leadership course at the undergraduate level isn't appropriate. I disagree. I think the concepts that we're thinking about teaching here, anyone can be a leader. And even if you're not expecting to be a leader, you should understand the tenets of leadership so that you can be a mentor or be menteed to in a better fashion. Those are the courses that we have in the structure right now that we're really starting to play around with and so we're focusing on. The students will then further customize their experience by taking those 4 program electives and fulfilling them in these areas. So although we have these titles here, just that I use to group these things, the students will really have the ability to take any of these. We're not going to do, for the first year, we're not going to do formalized concentrations, which lock students in. Instead, what I'm making is this collection of, 9, maybe 12 courses that students can choose from, 3, 6, Yeah, that the students can choose from to sort of customize their experience. So those students who might be management minded might take a deeper marketing course. The university has a consumer behavior course, and we also have an integrated marketing course. So I can see our social media students and those interested in the management side, especially marketing, sitting here. I see our production students utilizing these particular courses. This is the only one that's new here, sports event production. And these other ones already exist. These will be new courses. So esports broadcasting, that's sort of a placeholder title for it, but there'll be a version 1 and a version 2 of that. These are students that are interested in the various roles on camera. So I could see these students actually training to maybe be shoutcasters, analysts, or even observers during the HU collegiate games. We have one student who's at the university has already been hired as a caster for a small league, and he's been doing that and sort of using the university activities for doing that. Improv is a great tool for helping people become better performers or actually on camera. Before I move into coaching, one of the things I also wanted to mention is we have this esports event production, and we also have this internship block here. Internships at the university, all students have to do an internship, and they entail about 135 hours over a semester. Our idea here is to prepare our students, so they'll take this class, they'll take a program elective, and then prepare them for an internship, hopefully, and especially the production kids will go out and do that at an esports facility, whether it's here at the university, whether it's working through Nerd Street or Allied Esports or someone else that we get involved. Our students will be prepared to do that. We also have another course, which I'm not seeing here at the moment, that is missing from the list. I'll have to add it back, but it's a field studies course. Field studies at the university, mostly in the life sciences, are when we do things such as our forensic students will travel to Brazil, to the rainforest, and study spider habitats. Our geospatial students have been going to Greece for the last couple of years, and they've been doing aerial reconnaissance with drones, with various sensor arrays to help the archaeologists unearth various things that might be underground. That same group has been going to, or a different group of geospatial students have also been going to Iceland to study glaciers and some of the things happening there. I envision our esports students also doing a field studies where they go off. Envision a group of students for 1 week in the spring semester. They travel to an esports arena. Let's say they travel to Vegas, and they have the opportunity to shadow someone doing a job that they want to train to do. Or maybe Nerd Street is having a week where they can go to Philadelphia or Huntington Beach or Denver and sort of work in that facility, again, shadowing, or if they're ready, I expect the students to have to apply for this, but maybe they can do some of these jobs themselves. Our university is extremely hands-on, and I like to keep that involved with our student body. It's great for keeping them engaged and keeping them interested in what they're studying. I think it's the best way to try out whether or not this is the career for you is to actually do it. So we try to be as applied as possible. So a lot of these first three are often about doing the work. The coaching area is a little different. We expect a few students are going to come in to our program who want to be coaches. Some of the students who are working with the team now that Joe oversees or Alex or our other coaches oversee, they're actually ex-pros or folks who have left the pro league to come or are no longer playing in pros and have come back to college to study for whatever their degree is. Well, I actually envision some of those who have pro experience to want to go into coaching at some point. So imagine you're a pro, you go back to college, you play on the collegiate team, and then you move into a coaching position by taking some courses and some study here. Some of the candidates that we're looking at to hiring, we're still interviewing folks now. Since Joey G turned us down, I'm not rubbing it in, but I just want to let that be said. Some of them actually have coaching backgrounds, so that's a great thing that we're looking for to do and expand upon. So again, and I was talking earlier about the certificate program and the graduate program. I think all of those areas are going to have a coaching focus to them. Just coaching at the undergraduate level will look a little differently. So I know I talk fast and I go through things quickly, but are there any questions about this sort of how the program breaks down and some of the things that we're offering.
If I just might make one suggestion in my experience, one of the most important classes that has not been even really discussed is, and maybe it could wrap into the leadership course as there's questioning about the timing of that class, what the content of that class is, but I think the most valuable component that can be added into something like this is coursework on digital citizenship, media training, and brand safety. And there's all correlations between the three, so they can be wrapped up into one class, whether it's a certificate class or not. But this is absolutely one of the most valuable things that we could contribute to this industry at this stage. There's a lot of non-endemics that are quite hesitant to be involved in this industry as it's all live, no delay.
Right.
It's a lot of young people. So, we have a pilot program called Bounty Board, which kind of scales a handshake between endemics, non-endemics, and micro-influencers. But these micro-influencers need to have training on brand safety, media training, to be a part of the program. So I know this is a huge thing, a certificate on media training, brand safety, and digital citizenship, or maybe even, to me, that's a leader.
Right. Yep.
So I would just love to, at some point, so on my point, this would be the 201 class to the 101 content creation class that I've distributed. And the 201 class might be, again, the digital citizenship, media training, and brand safety.
That's perfect. Some of that would be touched upon in these two classes, so fall and spring here, contemporary issues, and then sports management. But you're right, we need it more in depth. I was thinking the digital citizenship here, but I'm very open to having a course like that, and I agree, it's definitely needed, especially when we think about those micro influencers. So thanks. That's perfect.
Yeah, I like the idea of being a certificate class as well, because I think it opens up much more possibilities for people to participate as well.
Yep, I agree. And we know we want components of this to go online eventually, so we can have a broader reach for that. I was jotting a note down. Yeah, and the other side of it is I agree. I would like to have that happen before this final spot here. So that's something that should show up here or here, but I don't think those two things can happen together. So we'll have some discussion about that. But I appreciate the feedback. Does anyone else have any questions? Or
I do, Charles. This is
Yes.
Joe. The one thing I noticed, and I'm not sure if this is something we should bring up now or maybe even after, but I think there's some parts that are missing from the coaching part of the program.
Definitely are.
And I'm not sure how specific or how in-depth we want that to be because those are electives. But for example, the idea of like game strategy, I mean, that to me as a coach is like one of the most important things, game understanding, game strategy. I'm not sure that fits into anything that we've talked about so far, but I think there's certainly room for it. The other thing I noticed has to do with analytics, and I'm not sure if this falls under the already existing analytics program.
Yep.
But something more specific like game data analytics. So when I'm talking about analytics in Overwatch or League of Legends, I think that should be a distinction that should be made. As it is with coaching and game strategy and game understanding as well, that should also be a very similar distinction that when you're studying Overwatch game strategy, it's going to be different from League of Legends game strategy. So I'm not sure if there's room to kind of fit that in as part of like the electives for coaching or maybe even the certificate program for coaching. But I certainly think there's more room for that, and maybe that could be a thing that you end up not necessarily like specializing in too in depth, but as you get into like third and fourth year, you'll typically start to specialize a little more, correct, in most programs. So maybe that's where students can start to think, what esports am I currently interested in? Is it more of like a general position that I'm looking for in esports? Do I want to focus on Overwatch? Do I want to focus on League of Legends? Is there, because if I want to be a coach, I mean, I'm probably not going to end up coaching League of Legends, Overwatch, and Rainbow Six at the same time.
Right.
I'm probably going to end up coaching, one of the three. And so to have a course that kind of includes I guess, aspects of coaching in that particular esport would be really important. And whether that's part of the electives or even the certificate program that we talked about, I think it can fit into both, basically.
Perfect. Yeah, so the coaching was pretty much as an add-on of someone who knows absolutely nothing about coaching, who has never played a team sport ever. I ran cross
Okay.
country and I played tennis, right? So, but the last couple candidates we've looked at have really pushed heavily for this coaching area. So, I pretty much grabbed these from other discipline or other institutions that had coaching programs. But yes, so one of the things on the analytics side, the my reasoning, and again, it's faulty, was there's this class where they learn the tools, and then this class where they're really thinking about, well, how do those tools maybe apply to esports in general? So the measurement and evaluation of the data that might be coming in. But again, I've jotted that down because that's pretty important, and maybe it is. Part of it is in the titling, and we make sure that we have the content there. But it's really about game data analysis rather than
Correct.
just a generic
Yep.
data course. But I think they can start off with a regular data tool.
Certainly, yeah.
Analytics
I agree.
course. Okay. All right. Perfect. Anyone else? Those are really great comments to add.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. This is Paul on the management and e-business side. I think there could be an extension and also a crossover with the other disciplines and schools within the university for Marcom. And this week in particular, we have been dealing with something that falls specifically with endemics who are trained to dealing with crisis management and marketing and communications. Two instances that came up for us that we have learned to deal with. We had an Evo event at the arena. Some of you may have saw there was an incident at the party. So we have had to deal with that. And then from the national level, the dialogue surrounding video games has taken an inopportune turn towards blame for that. So being able to handle the issues surrounding, because it's affecting on all levels, the arena, stock performance, everything like that, is somebody that is an endemic that can apply disciplines classic to public relations and marketing communications is something that has proven extremely valuable and the tip of the spear for us right now. It's always something that we've kind of shoehorned in. Everybody has come from either an agency background or here and there from traditional backgrounds. But this week we're really seeing where the rubber meets the road on being able to speak intelligently about gaming, esports, but also having a foundation in true classic marketing communications.
That's a really good point. And there are so many great case studies from other industries that show, like just crisis management in general, but how that can be handled and then preparing students to be able to do that. So definitely we'll look into that.
Yeah, anecdotally, this morning we had a meeting where we're talking, it's truly like climate change, where we have institutes from the National Institute of Health, we have all these studies everywhere that were kind of, rendered useless in the climate of social media and just general dialogue. And so we've been navigating that accordingly, and really a classic, understanding of how to navigate these, because it's not going to get any better. We all know that, there is an NFL concussion moment coming for esports. There, it's all looming out there where we're all going to take a hit on something. And to have an academic recognition of that, I think would be outstanding.
Thank you. Perfect. And then Christian, I think you wanted to jump in.
Yeah. So my biggest question as we get into the details on all of this is how all of this is going to flow together given the breadth of possible subject areas and channels kind of within the industry that students are able to go down. So at the risk of adding another one, one thing that I definitely kind of think about that I think is probably a theme that is worth exploring, especially given the nascent nature of the esports industry, is kind of the entrepreneurial structures that are developing in the industry. I mean, you touch on it in the business models and trends, but I think that given where we are with the industry, there's a whole lot that's going to change incredibly rapidly in the next coming years, and I think that. And maybe entrepreneurship is a frame to think about some of those issues, but maybe there's something else to kind of dig in deeper on. But the professional teams and the franchise model is very different than event-based operations, which is very different than physical venues, which is different than the coaching and the development of leagues. I mean, there's just so many different ways to approach this that I think are going to be. So it's unclear right now which of these models will emerge and grow the fastest and which will present the most opportunities. So I think that kind of a lens is probably going to be really valuable to students as they're trying to understand where they fit in the overall industry. I think you could have a whole track on a number of entrepreneurial courses and projects and things that students can work on within the industry. So maybe it's a fifth category of the electives, but again, at the risk of adding a whole nother channel and too much complexity there. But that's kind of my thought.
No, that's good. So a couple of things for us that we can keep in mind. One thing is our university is so nimble. We're able to change things pretty quickly as we see trends or industry shifts. So that's a good thing. The other is one of the reasons that my provost has, she sort of taught me to do this and not really build these as silos, but really make it more of a tableau of courses. So as we see these 4 categories here, those categories really don't exist. It'll be up to the student to sort of go down a list of courses and options to sort of hone what their interest is. Now, the beauty of that is you can have a student who might start off and take a esports event production course and realize that, oh wait, maybe I'm really interested in marketing, and so I can very easily start filling my other 3 courses with something from the marketing space. And I think, to Christian's point, the same with the entrepreneurial. We have a number of courses here at the university that already are in this entrepreneurial track, and we could utilize those, but of course create our own course to go along with those and take other opportunities. So thanks for bringing that up. I had not thought about that at all. I was just advising a couple students to take a new course that we have on the book that's all about consulting, how to be a consultant, how to be a remote employee, that sort of space. But I didn't even think about the entrepreneurial aspect of we have, standing right here halfway through 2019, we have no idea what this landscape is going to look like in 2 years, right? We have no idea what new models are going to come out or what new companies or what new technologies are going to help push various areas of the industry to what direction. So in our case, we are actually preparing students right now to take classes next spring. Come next summer, we will be looking at this again and say, okay, this is what we thought in 2019. It's now 2020. What changes do we want to make? And so by not having these sort of siloed areas, I can do that by adding and removing classes pretty easily. But all great things and notes that we've jotted down here. Did anyone else want to add anything before I go into our last sort of section?
I've got a couple of small things. First of all,
Sure.
Charles, this is really awesome so far. You've done a great job, and I wish I had the dream team that you put together here when I was getting started. Because these comments, I've been writing down stuff the entire time from all these experts here because this is some really, really great stuff they're talking about. So one of the things I saw, what's the rationale for 4 credit hours for those courses versus 3 credit courses? I know the 1 hour seminars, but if one of the other slides had a lot of these esports classes are 4 credit hours. Does that mean they have some kind of lab component or something else, or what's the 4-hour classes? Why'd you decide on those?
Yeah, so in some cases, it's to add, well, some of it is psychological. Our students look down the list and see what they're taking, and they say, oh, whoa, that's a 4-credit class. That must be really important. That's one side of it. The other is quite often when I break up the classes into 2 sessions per week, a 2-hour means that they can get to more content than that 1.5. And when you look at the loss that that often happens. So that's the second thing. The third thing is, you're right. We have a number of courses that fit the studio model.
Hmm.
And so sometimes those studio sport courses will meet like for 4 hours on a Friday, where all that time is lumped in together, where they have hands-on time, where they're, some of the production courses where they're actually get some assignment or some piece of technology, and then they go and build something within the course. And then the last part of this is the numbers. If those were all 3 credits, that means I now have 2 additional courses that I have to squeeze somewhere in the
Sure.
in the curriculum. And so I try and leave a semester at no more than 5 courses. Right. Ideally, I'd love it when it's 4, but that's just hard to do throughout. The other thing that this breaks down that's different than just about everything else at the university is each year is now 30 credit hours. Which we have a number of programs here that don't do that. And that means weird things happen, especially with financial aid, where you get to a student who's at the end of their second year, but they're not technically a junior yet, right? Which changes some curriculum stuff. So I played around with the numbers a lot to make sure that I can, you see mostly 14s and 16s, actually all 14s and 16s,
Right.
so that the numbers work.
Okay, great. And I love that esports leadership class. I think Garvey had some fantastic ideas to implement earlier on.
Yep.
Just a leadership that you could revisit leadership. I know you're getting some pushback on that. I would keep fighting what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm pretty good with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say keep it on there. Maybe if you call it just capstone. I don't know if that would appease the masses better. But I think leadership is a great one to have, and I think it's in a very, very appropriate place. So please keep fighting that. It's something I'm going to work on here as well, actually.
Good.
Everything else, looks pretty good. I like the coaching. With the coaching stuff, how many coaching classes do you currently have at HU?
0.
Okay.
We don't have a sports management program at all, so that'll all be new.
Right. That's what I was kind of wondering. Joe had a great point about you really want to get more specific things. For somebody who wants to coach Overwatch, you don't want them, you want them learning Overwatch strategies, not necessarily League of Legends strategies or Rocket League or other things. So with those coaching classes, I'm glad that you have those in there, and I'm okay keeping them broad as long as students understand within those classes, and whoever's teaching those classes tailor their projects and assignments for the games that they want to coach. That's how traditional coaching classes work in college. Here at SU, we have team strategies classes, and somebody that wants to be a baseball coach will have baseball projects. Somebody wants to be a football coach has football projects. So the instructor is really in charge of making sure that students tailor their learning in that particular class to the game or sport that they want to be coaching. But I think that's really up to the instructor, the professor, more than it is the class itself.
Yep.
I'd just be interested in seeing how those classes shape up. And like you said, a student can take any of those electives, correct? They're not pigeonholed to only taking management or only taking.
Correct.
Okay. Something I got some feedback from our curriculum committees when I proposed that was that so a student can take so many semi, in their eyes, unrelated classes, so to speak, that really they're not getting an education focused in anything. And so it almost seems like a disservice to the students. I argued that taking down the silos, interdisciplinary, and all that stuff, but some people still didn't like that. So I'd be interested to see what you come up with. I know your provost is all about taking down the silos and this interdisciplinary nature, but that's one of the feedbacks I got was that if a student isn't required to focus in one area, it means they're unfocused in a lot of areas.
Yeah,
so
no, I completely understand. And the interactive media program, when I designed that originally, I had concentrations in there, right? And she suggested we take them out, and I'm glad I did, because the ones that I designed at the onset of the program are different than the ones we ended up with.
Okay.
And I think the same thing is going to happen here. We're going to find that students gravitate towards certain areas, and we're going to say, okay, this is the natural mix of these things. The other side of that is all of our students have advisors who are going to advise them as to which courses to take. And for this program, I'll be everyone's advisor. So, I'm going to lean on some students heavily saying, hey, what do you want to do? And I think the other side of this is they'll also be shadowing at some point a job, and they'll be thinking about what do I need for this particular job. And so maybe they take 2 courses. Maybe they take 2 courses in the marketing side of things and then decide that they want to go into the performance side, and because they're thinking of a particular job or a particular role that they want to fulfill, and they need a little bit of both of those. I think that's a good thing for the student, as long as they're going in informed about that, as opposed to taking one from each of the 4 and saying I'm done, right? They're not going to
Okay.
get as much out of it, and their resume is not going to look that great either.
Right. No, I'm with you. I love that model, and it's something I'm going to fight for again here. And I'm with you that, by this time next year, the year after, who knows what these curriculums will look like. I
Yep.
fully expect mine to be changing over the next couple of months as we get started in the program too. But I think you've got a really, really solid start here.
Good, good. I appreciate it. I know we're coming up on Garvey's time, I believe.
Yes,
Um,
sorry.
no,
Yes.
no, that's quite all right. And so the last bit here, and Garvey, if you need to pop out, that's fine. As you noted, notes will be
Great.
shared.
Thank you.
And this is also being recorded, so you can come back to it as well. So thanks for your time.
Awesome. Oh, no, really. Thank you. I'm going to stay on for another 5 minutes.
Okay, perfect. So the last thing is, so you guys got a chance to sort of see what we're doing and provide us some great feedback, which is ideal for really us spinning up this program to be something that each one of you would be able to look back on and say, okay, yeah, that they put together something really interesting there, and you could help also promote what we're doing. But I do have two asks. It would be great if some of the folks who are what I'm calling from industry, or you have jobs that are in esports, to start thinking about some of the roles in your companies. And you'll see it on the slide there, but sort of like ideally, what we need to do is make sure we're training our students for particular roles. And we have a view of what those roles are, but you guys are in the trenches. So if you could help us identify, and you probably have someone in HR or in some other department at your institution where you can identify what the roles are that you're hiring and maybe a description of those. Salary range, not really necessary. We've pulled some salary data from Hitmarker that we're using. But it would be great to know what those roles are and what the description is. And then, if you could, where do you currently recruit those people? And then associated with those are what are the tasks? If you identify a role, what does that person have to do? A great bullet list would be ideal for that. But then a little more reflectively is as you hire new people, what are some of the skill gaps? What do you wish your new employees had that they don't have now? And then if you are having spend your time retraining or tooling up to some degree, what does that look like? And, where are you spending those things? And again, our reason for doing that is we want to make sure that our students are the most prepared for individual jobs that we can identify or help them identify and move into that. And if you could get that to us by the 21st, that would be ideal. Again, it's not really a deep thing. It's really title, some description, and then, as I said there, some of those gaps and skills that you might have. On the academic side, I will send you guys, if you're interested, I'll send you actually out my proposal. And the one thing I'm really looking for is I've identified a bunch of courses that are a little more than just a course title on a page. And so I'm trying to think about, well, what are the objectives that you think might come out of some of those courses? And this might seem a little arbitrary, but it's actually just a way of me framing my thinking for how some of the individual courses will tie back to program goals that we've identified. And I'm asking that of my academics because you folks have really thought about programs and building programs in the past or courses, and I think that might be helpful. I know it'll be helpful for us, but I thought framing it in this manner might be good for everyone involved. So that covers what I wanted to go over today and to talk about. And I thought if you guys have any questions, we could sort of chat through those some more. I had some other stuff here about, oh, no, I think I hit it, of sort of probing questions, but I want to be respectful of everyone's time and get a feel for what you think. I mean, we're trying something new here. We think we have something. We don't know if we've got the secret sauce just right, but I think we've got a good starter.
You have a great foundation. Nobody in this industry has the secret sauce. I'll tell you that right now, and I think all the rest of the industry folks will tell you we're all still figuring things out. We're building the plane we're flying in.
Yeah, I hate hearing that analogy, but I know it oh so well.
Yeah. I think you're doing a great job. I just want to make sure that this is coming up time and time again. It came up during the NACE conference as well. We really have to be a little bit more proactive on this digital citizenship idea, and getting this industry to be kind of like the thought leader in this kind of space on, data doesn't have societal constructs. Why are you putting societal constructs on business when our whole business is the creation of content to generate data to sell against?
Right.
It don't make no sense to me. So I would love to just make sure we head off at the pass. Any naysayers that might look at a comprehensive program like this that doesn't specifically address this major pain point?
Yeah. How could someone say no to that?
Yeah, we have to head that off at the pass. So, and it's near and dear to all of our hearts. I was in the esports arena this weekend at Evo when that incident happened. So I can tell you there's a lot of work that still needs to be done.
Gotcha. Garvey, I will reach out at some point and we'll chat again. Are you going to be at TwitchCon?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. This will be my first year, so I'll hunt you down and we maybe have a chat there as well.
Great. We have a student day. We take a bunch of student leaders and we do panels. We just spend the day together socializing, get to know each other, and do cool things together. So I'll make sure you're part of that.
Okay, that would be
group.
great. Thanks a lot.
Perfect. My pleasure. All right, I have to run, everybody. I want to thank everybody for your time, and I want to thank Harrisburg for including me on this. I'm really appreciative, and anything I could do, I am at your service.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Garvey. Take care.
Have a nice day, everyone.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Anyone else have any other comments before we close out?
One thing I'll throw in is, I think, and this is something I hopefully can help you continue to push back on over time, is from an employability standpoint, I think this is going to be one of the biggest challenges because there's so many different verticals that students can specialize in that aren't necessarily unique just to esports. I mean, esports is a great lens to look at a lot of them, but say, for example, someone who's interested in video production would not go into a marketing program, take a couple marketing classes, take a couple video production classes, and come out saying, I can do video production.
Right.
And I think each of those verticals has a similar challenge you're going to face. So I do think, the general ability to experience all of them is going to be super valuable to help students select which one they want to ultimately focus on. But if they're looking to ultimately turn this into a job, I think that portfolio of whichever vertical they're ultimately going to gravitate to is going to be super important. So it doesn't mean they have to take all their classes in video production, but I would want to see a video reel coming out of it that is solid. And if that takes a few extra classes, so be it. That's really the level that we'd be looking at in each of those verticals, right? I'm much more interested in targeting someone to hire that has deeper experience within whichever one they're focused on, rather than a smattering across all of them and then having to train them deeper in that specific skill set.
That's a good point, and thanks for bringing that up. The other thing that is listed here, you notice there should be 3. I have to find the third one, but there are free electives here, and that's the student can take any course at the university itself. And so, as I said, we're advising students individually. That's a way of actually getting 9 additional credits in any one area, right? So those students, and the example you brought up with the video students, actually the video students, I can see one of 2 things happening. They either enroll into interactive media program and fill their electives with esports courses, or they come into the esports program and fill all of their free electives with the video and the production stuff, right? And so I completely agree there. And then the other side of that is I often look at programs like this, and I'm using this term lovingly, they're bait and switch, right? So, and what I mean by that is the fact that the students are focusing on esports, but if you took away the word esports, they're focusing on management, they're focusing on production, they're focusing on, they're focusing on skills that do on live event production. They're focusing on skills that apply to various industries. And it's the same thing we used to do in the games industry. We would bring students in and say, yes, you're going to learn how to build games, but what they were really learning are soft skills. They were learning how to work as a team. They were learning production skills, yes, but how to use a variety of tools. So, Christian, thanks for the comment. We'll definitely keep that into play and have to think of ways of making sure the students have the ability to do deeper dives in some of those areas.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just projects, right? It's like if you're if you're interested in the coaching side of it, I want to see what you did coaching a high school team. Like I want that to actually be a thing you really did, so you come out with real experience rather than just talking about coaching strategies. Things
So
like that can be the application side, and as long as projects get pushed to the forefront in all of these classes, I think you will have that kind of a portfolio that demonstrates that skill set.
and here's something that will make you feel even better about that. You see this course here, Project 1 and Project 2. These are self-defined individual personal projects for a student. So let's say you have that student that's going into video production and they need to work on their reel. Here's a full semester's time of work, minimum of 135 hours that they invest into that thing. If they've identified that they need to up their reel, they're going to go out and capture footage. They might be learning some After Effects. They're going to do all things to actually focus on that. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I did not point that out. But all of the students have to do Project 1, internship, and Project 2, where they can really dive much deeper and focus on that. Great point, and I'm glad you mentioned it because it really made me think about the project work that has to happen.
I just want to salute that being brought up and build on that. We see it constantly with the talent that we have at the arena and the crew that we have there, is that there is, and this goes back to the marketing side, is that there is no distinction between logo and brand. People will come up with an idea like, oh, we need a logo. And it's like, can we step back and look at the overall holistic vision of how we're going to communicate this going forward? And then there is also, and it's something that is incredibly endemic to this group of students and this generation, is a complete and this is a very strong word, a complete ignorance of intellectual property.
Yes.
And I'm constantly having to educate and tell, like, using words with a 22-year-old, like, we are now in the area of legal exposure because you have done this. You have, you've strained our relationship with a publisher and things like that. And I mean, I really think that is worth a conversation and expansion of, because that is a serious real world problem, is that I do not want to kill the creativity in the crib and be like, we want to do this, we want to do that. But it's like, okay, let's look at it from a brand perspective and an IP perspective.
That's a perfect topic for the Contemporary Issues course, which falls right before the Social Media Management course. We do IP. We have actually an IP lawyer here at the university who teaches a couple of the. I think he teaches in the entrepreneurial space. I know e-business specifically or broadly, but entrepreneurial. But yeah, that's a really good point that I had not thought about, of making sure they're actually responsible for the images. Right now, my students feel that if they found it on the internet, it's free to use, right?
Yeah, and unfortunately, Epic and Blizzard don't feel that way.
Correct. Well, a lot of folks don't feel that way. And so at least we can, have that conversation and distill that into them, that no, someone took that photograph and really owns that photograph. They might license it to you, but even in that case, you still don't own it. You can't do anything you want with it. So thank you. That'll be another good one.
Yeah, and I mean, it's that personal touch point, is that, like, you are being creative, you are you're doing something really exciting, but there's somebody that above you that can enhance your career, that's going to take the heat. Unbeknownst. If something gets out on social, and I mean, we actually, perfect example, we had somebody that wants to work within the creative department, wanted to flex his muscles and design something for us. Did not go through the proper channels of, like, here it is an email, here's my Behance account, here's my portfolio, that. Just put it up on Twitter.
Oh.
And we, like, had to jump on that. And that is not an outlier.
Right.
That is a typical situation.
All right, perfect. Anyone else? This has been extremely helpful to me. You guys have answered a number of questions that I had about how this will work. You provided feedback on what we can do to make this thing better. You've really made my job a little easier. I'm not losing sleep over it yet, but I will get to that point. So I don't want to keep everyone. If we don't have any other questions or comments to make, as I said, we'll send out a follow-up email. This presentation was recorded, or our conversation was recorded, so I will share a link to that as well if anyone wants to go back and find things. The email will actually have the ask that we have of both the industry and academic folks. We will also reach out individually to Christine, who couldn't be here today. She's at Rosemont College. They have a pretty good esports, a sports management program, and centered around marketing and branding. So we'll chat with her a little bit separately. But this has been fantastic, and I really appreciate everyone's time. I thank you. Really can't thank you enough. That this has been a lot better than I thought it would be.
Thanks.
My pleasure.
Thanks,
All right.
Charles. Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks, Charles, and thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Yep. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, have a great day.
You too. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.